Hey, Matt.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
Good, thanks, man. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, you busy?
Always. But busy's good, right?
Yeah, busy is better than not.
That's
yeah.
right.
But as long as we're always busy doing what we love doing, that's it's always a good thing. How's things been?
Yeah. Really good. Really good. Yeah, podcast is doing well, and just chatting and trying to grow the game, and also working a little bit on the professional tournament side, which has been fun. It's been a
Good.
fun shift, new challenge for me. So yeah, things are great.
Sure.
You?
Good. But no, very good. Yeah, no, everything's going really well.
Yeah.
Over at the academy where I am now, with a couple of great guys and girls.
Yeah.
A lot of good things really happening.
Good.
So really kind of pushing the boundaries in terms of modern coaching as much as possible. So yeah, it's really, really good.
Good.
Great mental performance, great strength conditioning program, and great facilities where we are as well. So
Nice.
it's really nice and really enjoying what we're doing. So
Good. Well, I'm glad we could jump on and do this. I'm excited for it. I haven't seen you in a couple of years, so
it's been a while, right? Our paths have kind of gone in different directions.
Yeah.
But it's amazing within the golfing world in particular how paths will always cross at some point or another.
Yeah.
So, always really important to keep good friendships, keep good connections with people.
Yeah, for sure.
Do everything that we can for future generations to build the game and to build the love of the game that we've probably grown up with.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important.
I do too. So I know we're having several people join right now, but just kind of quick intro. I mean, congratulations to you first off. I mean, you recently were named Director of Golf Performance at the G2 Academy, which is an exciting move for you.
Yeah, it was. A lot of things, had happened. A lot of things were going off with this whole coronavirus thing. A lot of opportunities were potentially coming my way, and I really love the area that we live and the opportunities that the G2 has.
Yeah,
and a lot of their forward plans in the future are really, really good. And obviously, continuing working with junior golfers. I love working with junior golfers. I love the challenges that it gives us, but the opportunities that we can develop with them as well. So
yeah,
we're looking at obviously developing a few other areas as well in the Bluffton area. So yeah, it's really, really good. Like I said, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of things we can do what we really are passionate about with me and the guys. And I've got Sebastian Brown with strength and conditioning, Scarlett Jordan Dental, Rebecca Kerry, who's the assistant coach as well, and we're really able to operate a really good program. So
good.
Yeah, a lot of possibilities, a lot of good
Yeah.
things.
And I was looking forward to making a trip to Hilton Head this month. Really, well, it would have been last week. I think we were supposed to be in Hilton Head, and I was going to try to connect with you while I was up there.
Family trips, right?
Yeah. So my in-laws have a timeshare in Hilton Head.
Yeah.
And so we've been going every year, typically later in the summer. But my sister-in-law is pregnant right now, and she's due in September. So we tried to bump it up a little bit, but we just decided to postpone the trip. So I'll definitely have to get up there and check you guys out. We can shake hands or bump elbows or whatever we're doing these days.
At the moment, I'm more than happy to shake hands.
Good.
No, dude, because like I said, there's a lot of great courses in this area.
Yeah.
Hilton Head's renowned for obviously the RBC, and has just got such a wealth of good courses in this area. So yeah, pop by, but we'll definitely get you out one of the good ones for sure.
Cool. Well, let's jump in. I know we're already started talking, but can you just, context purposes, give the audience, just tell us a little bit about how you got introduced to the game of golf and kind of what your path has been so far.
Yeah, sure. So, as a youngster throughout my whole life, I was always heavily involved in sports. I was always either if it was basketball or soccer, football, soccer, to high levels, and then obviously golf as well, and a little bit of cricket when I was growing up in the UK. But I was always fortunate to play at a high standard, and that really gave me the thirst really for competitiveness, and competing in as many different areas as possible. And like we all know, golf gives, great life experiences, life coaching in a way.
Sure.
So as I got older, I finished playing some of the other sports. I finished playing basketball, I finished playing soccer, and then got more and more heavily involved in playing. Turned professional when I was 20 to 21. And then really got introduced to a gentleman whose father was actually played in the Ryder Cup. So there's a gentleman called Peter Alliss, famous golfer, famous Ryder Cup player. He's now a commentator at BBC.
Yeah.
And I got the opportunity to work with Gary, his son, who was the national team coach. He was, the director of golf at the Belfry, which is where they've played the Ryder Cup, and they play courses for the PGA of the UK. And I've always loved to help people. I've always loved the coaching aspect. I've always loved being able to make a difference in people's lives. So spending time with him really got me moving in the right direction in terms of what I wanted to do. So spent a little bit of time with him for a year or so, and then had the opportunity to work for David Ledbetter. So with Led, it was in Austria, a little bit in Germany as well. And in that time, I was going between Austria, Germany, and America. So I was kind of going backwards and forwards, worked with a lot of great people, a lot of great players, skills of the trade. But also, as I continued working with good players and great coaches, like the passion for helping people grew and grew. So I got more interested in developing my skills as a coach and as a person, and then going on to help other people. So always, what can I do to help this player? The more I learn, the faster, the quicker, and the more holistic approach I can take that can really help everybody in different ways. Every player is different. Everyone needs slightly more technique, slightly less technique, a little bit more from a supportive role or a peer group role. And that's really kind of the art of a coach, what I've really been doing.
Yeah.
So I went back as a force from Austria to America for a few years, and then was asked to come up to Hilton Head by Jonathan Yarwood.
Yeah.
And he and I worked together for a number of years. Jonathan is a top 100, won US Open with Michael Campbell, and has taught many, many people. Unbelievably good coach, great to work with, great to learn under, a good friend as well. So, he helped to continue to form my style of coaching. And then that's put me in a position where I feel very well prepared in order to continue doing the players that I work with.
Yeah.
So it put me in a position where I was able to develop a training program as well that I knew was not only giving people technically solid information, but also devising a program where they can really engage with their training. Which, when you're looking at developing any player, whether it's a junior golfer or an average golfer or an elite tour player, whenever they train, it's always a matter of high intensity, high focus, and really purposeful training. So everything that was devised as well and designed was based off of my outside learning. So for me, it's always the more I learn, the more I help somebody. So in my I'm I'm doing a master's in sports coaching with the University of Birmingham in the UK, which just gives me more research and empirical evidence as to how elite players are developed. So
Yeah.
it's enabling everything, all the guesswork to be taken out, and it's much easier to then direct players when you know that it is really going to benefit them, because it's been proven, there's been a history of development, there's been everything that I've looked at. It's like, okay, this is clear. This is how it should be done in terms of developing, let's say, a really good elite junior player.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's kind of brought me to a position that I am at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that it's about a team, a player should have a team behind them.
Yeah.
Not just one person. It's having somebody who can obviously give you technical information, give you a variety of charts, teach you how to train, how to get the most from your practice, how to prepare for tournaments,
Mm-hmm.
but also, having a strength and conditioning coach, having someone who knows how the body develops, how especially junior bodies develop, and how the differences between how girls develop and how boys develop. And then also having somebody who can tackle them from the mind, tackle them from a mental perspective.
Yeah.
Is huge.
It is, for sure.
And again, at the end of the day, it's always about doing the right thing for the player.
Mm.
And it's not always the easiest route to take.
Right.
One that in the long term is always going to be best.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, that's what we're all about. We're all about doing everything we can for the people that we work with.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Spread over, 2-minute quote for 15, 20 years of, well, probably longer actually now. Actually, no, it's longer. So unfortunately, we're getting older.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of that. I find myself in that position now.
Yeah.
I say great opportunity, great future.
Yeah.
And will continue doing everything that I can for the players that I work with, and doing it with sincerity and genuine. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, you've had a good path, and congrats again on your new role. I know it's an exciting new opportunity for you to continue to grow and teach new people and affect lives and stuff like that. So I'm happy for you. Something I've admired about you that I've got to watch when we crossed paths and spent some time around each other and you've kind of talked about it a little bit already, but just continuing to learn, continuing to develop, just put more tools in your tool belt essentially, to be able to help better. And I just kind of want to talk about being a student of the game. I think I like to learn. I like to do stuff like this and have good conversations, to learn from people that have, really got a good understanding of different aspects of the game. And I know that you're the same. But I think it's also really important for players too, to be students of the game. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, great question. Tiger Woods is a student of the game. He's arguably the greatest player ever to have played the game, but he also understands the hard work, the history behind the game, and how it's evolved and how it's developed. So anybody wishing to be of a high standard needs to be a student of the game. You need to understand all the nuances of how training is an art form. Not just going out there and beating balls, but how do you train efficiently? How do you train to get the most performance? Or, every time you walk off the range, it's a matter of saying, okay, what have I learned today? And this is something that I say to a lot of the students that I work with is, every time you walk off this range, it's either you've worked to improve something or you've learned something. If you ever walk off the range and you can't say that you've done either of those two, then it was a wasteful session. So being a student of the game for me is learning all the different areas, learning the history, learning the history of the tournaments, the history of the majors, the history of the players and how people play differently, how the ball flight was different. The technology was different. What is the difference between modern day coaching and coaching 40 years ago?
Yeah.
Has it evolved? Absolutely, it's evolved. With the introduction of technology, we're able to quantify the changes that we make. And I think that's, for me, being a student of the game from a coaching perspective, that has been pivotal in giving me the facts and evidence that I need to make changes to players, and to make them better players, to make them better people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the student of the game, for any aspiring player, any aspiring coach, it's a matter of understanding the field that you're in, understanding what came before us, and having respect for the people that came before us, and what they did and the doors that they opened.
Right.
David Ledbetter was regarded as being kind of the godfather of modern day coaching because he brought it to the masses and he made people aware that coaching was an integral part of player development, and now it's gradually expanded into many different areas that a coach has to kind of cover when they're working with people. So I think it's just, I think it's really, really important that.
Yeah. How does a young player own that, I guess? I mean, obviously there's something from a passion perspective where I kind of think of, so Josh Brewer, the head coach of the women's program at the University of Georgia, I've talked to him about this, and he's huge on recruiting golf nerds, is what he said. He says, I'm a golf nerd. I want to recruit golf nerds. Like, I just want people that want to dive so deep into the game and learn all kinds of different aspects of the game, and whether it be playing or, like you say, history or those types of things.
Yeah.
But when we take it back to the game specifically, just from a playing perspective, how can young players better, I guess, quantify their practice time or measure their progress or their success, and really take ownership of that? You know what I mean?
Stats. Like, college coaches love stats. PGA Tour love stats. And I think when you start utilizing the technology that is around, you start to get you start to take emotion out of the game. So when someone comes off a golf course and let's say they've hit 14 drives and they've hit 8 fairways, but the last 3 drives that they've hit kind of all leaked out to the right, and they'll say that my driving was terrible today. They remembered the last 3 shots and they forget about the other 8 shots that they've hit the fairway, and they could have been bombs down there.
Right.
So from that perspective, players become very, very emotional. And is it true? Is it not true? It's not true in that situation. You could say you've had a good driving day. It was the fact that your putting was poor. But to get clarity, to get the best from their training, they need to know stats. They need to utilize, you got shots to hole, you got Game Forge, you got people like that, or platforms like that, that can really help to focus someone's training.
Yeah.
And if someone is a golf nerd and they want to get the most out of their training, I know that's something that I do with my players, is I want to see quantifiable information. How many fairways, what's your proximity to the hole from 80 to 100, what's your proximity from 100 to 120, what's your scrambling, what's your up and down, what's your bunker play, fairways and greens, things like that. That is interesting to know. But when you get it from data and you get it from, and you're checking your stats, then, like I say, it takes away the emotional factor, and it says, okay, well, in fact, my driving on that day was pretty good. I don't need to go to the range and beat balls with a driver for 2 hours. What I need to do is, in my stats, it says I'm weak from 60 to 80.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting the ball close enough from 60 to 80. I'm putting it to 20 feet, and the best guys in the world, let's say, are putting it to 15 feet. So I need to get that down.
Yeah.
and you can start to refine. Look at a little bit on the technique, look a little bit on you know random practice, block practice, kind of a blending phase as well.
Yeah.
But a competition, like putting pressure on within practice, is also really, really important. So that, for me, if someone is a golf nerd and you want to get better at playing, and you want to be a high collegiate level golfer, or you want to be a high amateur or professional, I think in the modern age, I think they're really important, and I think they're almost must-haves.
Yeah, I do too. It's interesting though, because I've had some recent conversations with other coaches and even some college coaches at really high level programs that struggle with their players wanting to spend the time that it takes to collect that data.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting to me, because there's some really, really strong players out there that don't pay a lot of attention to that. But I agree with you. I think it's super important. I mean, what would you say to those players that are just like, gosh, I don't want to spend the time putting that, it takes way too much time to log all that information and put it into a system. And
I would always ask them, on what level do they want to get to? Because, you look at the top players in the tour, both LPGA, PGA, keep stats.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't want to spend, 30 minutes inputting the data, switch 30 minutes of inputting the data with 30 minutes of watching Netflix or Amazon Prime, whatever it is.
Sure.
For me, it's all the vast majority of best players are using stats. So if you want to get left behind, by all means get left behind.
Right.
Because if I've got two players who are both playing in the same tournament, week in, week out, and one takes stats and one doesn't, the one that's taking stats is less inclined to be emotionally driven or emotionally effective in both a positive way and a negative way. And it's those negative times when the high score comes in. So for me, do stats because it gives you something one upon someone, something that another player may not be willing to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an interesting point, because, we were talking before this, or sharing some messages back and forth about just developing the complete or holistic player.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds to me from your perspective, keeping stats is something that can almost help you manage your mental game, is sort of kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah, hugely. Yeah, absolutely. Because, like I say, I'll put a player's hat on now. If I was going to go to an event, and if I was to play in 10 events, okay, and I stats for all of them, if I'm walking away from those 10 events, and that may be over a period of, let's say, 4 months, I'm going to get a very good idea of where my weaknesses are. Because again, if I'm laying up to, if I think, my distance, I feel really comfortable from 100 yards, right? Let's say I feel really comfortable from 100 yards, and I put in at 20 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if I go for emotionally and I say I'm not very good from 60 to 80, I'm just not putting it that close. Well, my 60 to 80 yard, even though it may not be close for what I want it to be, it's probably still closer than my 100-yard shot.
Right.
Right? So if I'm 100 yards out and I'm putting it to 20 feet, that is, that's a solid 2-putt.
Mm-hmm.
The make percentage from 20 feet is probably 5%, if that.
Yeah.
But if I'm at 60 yards and I think I took from 60 yards, but I'm actually putting it to 12 feet.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not happy with 12 feet. Well, that's fine. But it's 8 feet closer than 20. And the make percentage from 12 feet is considerably higher than 5%.
Right.
Probably 20% or something like that, I think, off the top of my head. But
sure.
For me, it's absolutely really important, because as a coach, if a player comes to me and says, okay, here's my stats and here are where my weaknesses are, I know it's not from a emotional standpoint. They may be emotional about it, but it's from a fact standpoint, and I can say, okay, I can see you're weak from 60. let's work on 60 because you've got 4 shots of those around.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take 12 feet and make it 10, then the make percentage from 10 feet is considerably higher than 12.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So we may save half a shot around. Okay. And if it's a 4-day tournament, I mean, there's 2 shots. So
Sure.
it's like low-hanging fruit that can pick off very, very easily. And it may just be the fact that they don't practice it because they're not confident. Well, if you're not and you don't like 12 feet, let's practice it. Let's work on it. Let's work a little on TrackMan. Let's look at the launch conditions. Let's look at the spin, and give you a variety of different shots that you can flight into the green and hold it. Right?
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, 12 feet becomes 10. I mean, who knows? It could become 8. It could become 6. Then obviously you're going to start liking the 60-yard shots.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Well, and effectively what you've done is you've taken the subjectivity out of it, right? And made it an objective approach, like you said, or not emotional.
Correct. Emotion can be a great thing for sure. Don't get me wrong. It can be, negative emotion can really make people focus more and push harder.
Yeah.
And then that's that mental aspect. That's managing those mental expectations.
Right.
But when you have something that is supported, it makes it much easier to then commit to and to then devise a plan that makes much more sense. So then, again, if I think I took from 60, but I really like my 100, well, if my 60 is closer and I can really train and utilize my time much more efficiently from 60 yards worth of training, then I'm just going to start hitting it closer to the green because I feel very good at 60 yards.
Yeah.
If you look at the stats on tour, is it the guy that's hitting most fairways that's making the money? No, it's the guys that are absolutely bombing it down the fairway or missing the fairway, right? The guys that are absolutely bombing it, hitting it closer to the green and just wedging it 60 yards. Guy that's hitting a driver 270 and has got much further green. So again, we've got to be, as a coach and as a player, you've got to be aware of what we're doing, what the coach is doing, what the player is doing, but also what is happening around you. So what's happening at the collegiate level, what's happening at the tour level.
Right.
What is the trend?
Yeah.
Those trends can help to devise really good training programs.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was the first U.S. Open that Brooks won. Mark Brody, who does strokes gained for the PGA Tour, was asked, what was the crazy data point that just stood out to you from this tournament? And it was exactly what you're talking about. Proximity to the hole translated to lower scoring. It wasn't necessarily the dispersion. It was just pure proximity and just the advantage that you have by being closer just statistically on what you're able to do on your approach shots.
Exactly, yeah. Mark Brody is great. Mark Brody is a great statistician. I remember talking with him one time, and I mentioned this to the students that I've worked with in the past because, again, it's really important information. I remember Mark saying, okay, who's closer who puts it closer from a pro's perspective or an amateur? Okay, so put it closer from 20 feet, and it was like a pro. Okay, who puts it closer from 15 feet? Okay, a pro. Who puts it closer from 12 feet? And you would think it's a pro. But it was like, no, it's amateurs. Amateurs put the ball closer to the hole, but they're lagging the ball to the hole. But they've got going in. When elite players, elite from 12 feet are going to try and ram that ball in the hole. They're looking to make it, but they're putting it past the hole.
Right.
I mean, so they're trying to put it past the hole. But they'll put it 2 feet past, whereas an amateur golfer will lag it up because they're afraid of free jabbing from 12 feet.
Sure.
Right? So understanding that type of information is really important when you're looking at becoming more of an elite player.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be standing at 12 feet, looking at making it as opposed to trying lagging it close. Okay, 12 feet, you're looking at making it. So if you can wedge it to 12 feet, you look at making it.
Yeah. Is there a system that you think is good for collecting and I guess just hosting that information, or is it more of an approach of conversation like this with a player and just
There's,
taking notes? So what does that look like?
I mean, system-wise that I've used before in the past is shots to hole.
Okay.
Shots to hole, it is a great platform. Also, GameForge. I've had more experience with shots to hole, and shots to hole allows you to input all the data, and then it gives you. You can also there's an aspect on it as well, which enables you to hypothesize what your average scoring would be if you improve the certain areas that really.
Okay.
If I was to input 100 rounds of golf, and it would have, within 20 yards, 20 to 30, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, and all the way up to like 250 yards, 260 yards driving,
right.
putting.
Yeah.
You can then highlight an area which would have the biggest impact on your overall score. So it may flash up, okay, putting from 9 to 12 feet, and your approach shots from, I'll stick with it, 60 yards, right?
Yeah.
And then it enables you to hypothesize, if you improved it to a certain standard, what effect it would have on your theoretical score. And the improvements are really clear. Like I say, like sitting down and talking with a player is, I think, really important. But it's also to have that at the side of you. Because,
as a backing.
As a backing, yeah. Because then it's, as a coach, if I'm on the course with somebody and I miss a few shots because, I'm thinking about their swing more, but I'm not thinking about where they're missing as much. I'm thinking about, what mental state they're in, whatever reason it may be. Those stats help to collect really important information and data. So,
yeah.
Combination of two. I think it's sitting down with a player, and I think it's sitting down with a player with a platform to store all the data.
Yeah.
Because you look at any of the top coaches that we know, top college coaches that we know, and they love players who gather the data because it shows evidence of where the areas that they're weakest or where they're strongest.
Yeah.
And you can devise a core strategy that plays to their strengths and plays away from their weaknesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I was saying that I love 100, but I'm actually getting it closer from 60, then it affects my game plan. So for short par 4, I'm not going to take an iron off the tee if it's viable to lay up to 100. If my stats show I'm closer from 60, I'm just going to knock it to 60 yards as opposed to 100 yards. So instead of I'll take a 3-wood and hit it down there 40 yards further and have a little wedge in from 60.
Yeah.
And I think that's the direction modern coaching has gone.
Yeah.
Because it helps drive an accelerated learning process. A manageable status.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Modern technology, modern coaching. And I guess really that kind of goes into talking about developing a holistic player, right? Those tools. So what's your stance on just modern coaching and modern technology? I know that you've got a lot of experience with different technologies, whether it be, ground force technologies or K-Vest or body track, those types of technologies.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like modern coaching, you said the word holistic. I think coaches have to be aware that it is not just technical improvements that you're trying to make. That is part of the jigsaw or puzzle. In England, I would call it a jigsaw. So I will always say to players, think of a jigsaw, think of a puzzle, and it's 500 pieces.
Yeah.
The fundamentals, when you do a jigsaw, you tend to do the edges first because it makes it a little easier to then frame the picture.
Sure.
So when it comes to developing a player, the fundamentals are those edge pieces. And it's really important that, as a coach, you understand the technology, you understand its positives, but you understand its pitfalls as well. So its negatives. So
what do you mean by that?
Well, people can become too reliant upon the technology. and it takes away the art of actual scoring game. They just think, okay, if I get my attack angle to -3 and my path to -2, then I'm going to be golden, and that's not the case. It's a matter. It's part of the puzzle. It's part of the jigsaw, and it's really important to include it in what we're trying to do when we're developing players. But understanding the use of technology and the positives is important. If a player gets reliant on technology, then it can take away from the artistry. So
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, golf's a game about putting the ball in the hole, right? And so you have to learn how to play the game. Obviously, there's a technical aspect to that.
Yeah.
That's not a secret, because you need to be consistent in your ball striking and those types of things to be able to score.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. You can go too far in the direction of, spending too much time just looking at the numbers, and you just get so caught up in that you forget to put the ball in the hole.
That's it. I mean, like, numbers are great because it enables you to understand what is going on from a factual base. So, but with that, with coaching, it's get the information, get the data, and then devise a plan so that it can be blended in and worked over through training and then over onto the golf course in a pressure situation.
Right.
And for me, that is coaching is an art form.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and like I say, I learned it from Jonathan's just come on. I learned it from Jonathan.
Yeah.
And being able to match everything up is really important, and being able to explain to a player in a way that is simple to understand is also an art form in itself. So a lot of times, sometimes coaches may they may know all the information, and it's really important to know that, but then don't blurt out all the information, give it a little digestible pieces, and I think that is really important when it comes to technology and coaching and developing a player.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, and then blending it with the team that the player has around them, blending it in with people that we know, with strength and conditioning, with a mental aspect, which then really starts to piece all those things together, and it helps to solidify players' development for sure.
Yeah, it's like pulling really hard from both directions, like the data and technical side, but the artistry side at the same time, and somewhere in the middle there is the sweet spot.
That's it.
Because it kind of makes me think, like, I brought it up talking about modern technology and modern coaching, but as we're having the conversation, I'm thinking of a movie. Have you ever seen 7 Days in Utopia?
I've heard of it. I don't know if I've seen it.
Okay. It really speaks to the artistry side of the game. So Robert Duvall is an old farmer, and this kid breaks down in his truck, and he's basically stuck on this farm for a week with Robert Duvall. And he teaches him a lot of lessons through being out on the farm and doing some different stuff that are really more of like just life lessons, but also, lessons that are going to help in golf. And one of the things specifically is he takes him out. He's going to have him paint a picture one day, and he takes him out, and they're set up behind a tree, and the green is behind the tree where the pin is. And he says, now you're going to sit down and you're going to paint how you're going to hit this shot. And then after you're done, you're going to get up and hit it. And so I think I just bring that up because there's just a whole other side to it, right? Of that artistry piece. And,
absolutely,
visualization is such a huge piece of the game. Spending that much time, painting out a picture and really visualizing that and then executing the shot. Of course, he knocked it really close to the pin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at Tiger. Look at what is always said about Tiger. His creativity, his artistry. The shots that he's hit on tour have been, not only long drives and penetrating the ball flight or whatever it may have been, but it's also, the shots where he's in danger, the shots where he's creative, and that aspect is important within coaching. So, if a player comes along, throw him in the trees, throw him in really difficult positions, throw him with, short side bunker with 7 yards of green to work with a pitching wedge, and get them to open and get them to use the bounce more and get them to understand create these shots. Um,
Yeah.
I think is part of modern coaching and is part of using the technology as well to help to develop really high performing players. You look at like Sevi or these guys didn't have all the technology, so there's no excuses for us to not use that artistry and to
Right.
use what they did from going back to being a student of the game, understanding how good these guys were.
Yeah.
And that they developed through playing and through creating different shots and through adversity. And I think that is, another really important aspect of that development.
Yeah, so I mean, different coaches feel differently about where time should be spent and everything like that. I mean, from your perspective, obviously you can drive a lot of that off of stats because we were talking about this, but just in general, what are some good ways that young players can build just good practice habits and good practice routines that are going to help them, to your point, challenging shots, becoming more of an artist out there, those types of things? How can they structure their practice or playing, not necessarily tournament playing, but just out on the course to develop better?
I mean, that's a really good question. I think it's very much an individual based. Some players are more adept at being able to stand on the range and hit shots. Other players just want to get on the golf course. So I think juniors have to, or any amateur golfer has to really look at where they find that they can get the most useful and efficient type of training.
Yeah.
But going out there with a particular plan in mind, going out there thinking, okay, I'm going to work on, my putting and my chipping. Okay. And understanding that, okay, I need to do some lag putting. I need to do some speed drills. I'll use a little bit of technology with the blast motion to focus a little bit on tempo, and really trying to incorporate everything that is available now. So much information that is available through technology, through YouTube and things like that. But does it pertain to the individual? That's the key factor. Does it pertain to that individual player? That's where people get a little bit mixed up. So, in relation to how does a junior get get more use of their time?
Yeah,
I think they've got to become a student of the game. They've got to become a student of their game, and so how they like to see the golf. Do they like to see the high draw? Do they like to see the fade? Understanding that from a personal perspective will start to develop their playing skills. And I know, speaking from a personal perspective as a player, I couldn't spend a lot of time on the range just working on technique. I was much more thinking about the ball. Okay, I'm trying to hit a high draw. Okay, how do I minimize the draw? Well, I used to play with a really strong grip, so how would I figure out how to minimize that draw by making my grip a little weaker?
Right.
And playing around with it, but I had fun doing it.
Yeah.
Because as a player, you've got to be able to, as a junior in particular, you've got to be able to have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of making mistakes. The best players make mistakes, but they are able to learn from those mistakes. So, being able to reflect on what they've done, thinking about what caused that shot and how they're going to try and change that for the future, I think is a really important thing. So, junior golfers in relation to improving their training and practice, very much individual, but very much going out there having fun, very much, working on all different areas of the game. Hooking up with a better player is a huge factor.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to be a little bit nervous, but go and ask the best player in the club.
Yeah.
I'm not saying challenge them to a game, but go and play with them, learn from them, and pick up little things that they do really well. I think junior golfers will be surprised that, some people may hit it a little further, but it's really the scoring zone, like within 130 yards. Really good players start to stand out. I'm sure you're aware that, you improve that area.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I've had, some high-level junior players on here, and I've had some good college players and some professional players.
Yeah.
And all of the ones that have been successful and continue to see success, it's interesting. It's just their structure is very similar. They spend a lot of time working on their short game,
Yeah.
that 100, 130 and in. If they're fortunate to have, a really good wedge area that they can work on, they spend a lot of time there, spend a lot of time putting, and then don't really hit a lot of balls on the driving range. They do obviously to warm up and stuff like that, but unless they're specifically working on something, just refining some different stuff on the range, they're not just sitting there hitting a whole bucket of balls just for the heck of it. They're taking it to the course. And so then they're relying on their short game and just playing the game and trying to figure out how to get the ball in the hole.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, when you look at the range, of sometimes a lot of junior events, people are hitting balls on the range, bang, 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 bang. And then they hit balls for an hour and then leave 5 minutes for the putting green.
Right.
I mean, how many shots are they going to take on the putting green with one club as opposed to with a driver? They'll take, let's say, 14 with a driver, but they'll make 30-yard putts with a putting.
Right.
So I think that's a really good point. I think, people have got to understand that, the importance that all the areas play in a round of golf.
Yeah.
When you're warming up, that's all it is just a warm-up. It is
Yeah.
wedges, a few irons. The work should have been done before the tournament in relation to course planning. Should have been done weeks in advance and then verified when you do a practice round.
Yeah.
And then, being able to bring that all together at the right time is really important. So, yeah, I mean, I'm always saying to junior players, don't worry too much about what you do on the range. It's just a warm-up. It's just where you're going to warm up, where you're going to stretch out.
Yeah. And sometimes paying attention to what you're doing on the range that day, you may have some tendencies that aren't things that you've been working on, but hey, you might need to just figure out how to get it done today, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's, I was talking to someone earlier and they were saying, that's exactly what they do, with some of the players that they have on tour is, they're just, if they turn up that day and, the body is, humans were very messy.
Right.
Our body's not going to move the same it is today, tomorrow, because we may sleep on it with a little bit of a stiffer neck.
Yeah.
Range, we see how we're hitting it. And if the ball's going left, like if it's hooking left, then, we've just got to figure out, how do we minimize that a little bit? Just kind of hold it off a little bit, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And then figuring out a game plan from there. So as a junior golfer, as any golfer, you've got to be really adaptive and also be resilient when you're playing. It's, if it's not going well, okay, what's your plan to handle it? We can't just get frustrated, throw our clubs, hit our clubs into the bag and expect us to get a lot better.
Right.
So the game is hard.
It is
really difficult. And a lot of people that are working very, very hard at getting better at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a junior golfer's resilience, a junior golfer's, you said it earlier, accountability, is something that has to develop at the same time as the golf swing.
Yeah.
I know our, mental conditioning coach that I work with, Scarlett Jewell, is amazing at the work that he does with the players. And it's all about, there is responsibility of a coach, there is responsibility of a physical conditioning coach, there's responsibility of parents, of peers, friends, teachers, but also the player.
Yeah.
The player has to take responsibility. The player they have to bring something to the table. If we had a big round table meeting, we all bring something. We all, a player has to bring more than just themselves. They have to bring guidance and, determination, grit, like I say, resilience.
Yeah. Understanding
that accountability. That if you do something wrong, put your hand up and say, I did it wrong.
Yeah.
How are we going to move forward from there?
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody makes mistakes, but we're judged by not the mistakes that we make, but how well we pick ourselves up and move forward from those mistakes.
Yeah.
And like I said, so that's going into more of the holistic approach. you know, looking at all aspects of development, not just one or two. There's multiple areas in which that we need to improve upon.
Yeah, definitely a lot of different components. Well, I want to talk about G2 specifically because obviously that's a huge mission that you're on right now, is to build and grow that. It's the only girls academy, I think, or the first all girls academy in the country. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. So it's an all girls academy, obviously in Bluffton, South Carolina.
Yeah.
It's really at the embryonic stage, like the early part of its growth.
Yeah.
We have a great owner, a great team, a great support for its growth. We're just currently looking at building a training center. We are going to be purchasing a golf course. So we're going to have a real, great base in which to develop players.
Yeah.
Within the training center, we're going to be having all the latest technology. We're going to have a strength and conditioning facility as well as location for mental. And it's all going to be on our own 18-hole championship golf course with a 6-hole short game course as well. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, the short game course is really good because it's scoring zone yardages. It's the yards, it's going up to 140 yards. And when we're training the girls, it's, we can work on certain areas on the range, on the course, and then let's go to the short game course.
Yeah.
So everything that we're doing for the girls is obviously to give great opportunities, to open more doors for the girls, and get them really ahead in the world and make, we're also always talking about equality. I think everything is leaned a little bit more towards guys. They have more opportunities. As a father of identical twin girls, for me, I want every opportunity for them as they're growing up, as they're moving forward in the world.
Yeah.
And
how old are they now? 4, 5?
6.
6. Wow.
I know. I've survived 6 years. I've got 3 girls in the house. Yeah, it's amazing how quickly time goes. So yeah, they're 6 now, and they've got their own personalities. They're telling me what they want to do, and like I say, like as a father of girls and as a father in general, you want everything. You want every opportunity for your children. So when we get students coming in, or anybody that I work with, it's very humbling knowing that parents are giving you their child and saying, please help them, please guide them.
Yeah.
Opportunity, and I know G2 and myself take it really seriously.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sacrifice that people make, and that sacrifice is very important, and it's very serious, and it's an honor to have someone make that.
Yeah.
So everything that we do at G2 is for our students and our students alone, because if they're happy, then everybody's going to be happy, right?
Yeah. Before we move towards wrapping up, can you just touch on what are the differences in developing young women versus young men? Just curious about that.
So physically, like, girls will mature a little faster than boys. They also reach their peak height velocity a lot faster.
Yeah.
And they're able to do more strength training and at an earlier stage as well. So we're taking all that into consideration. We're looking at their growth. We're looking at where girls tend to get more power from. They tend to get a little bit more power if we're looking at ground force reaction. They tend to get more rotational power because they have more strength in their hips. Boys can tend to be very explosive, a little bit more laterally, but definitely more vertically in relation.
Right.
Look at basketball. You've got great, unbelievable vertical jumps. So we look at that from a physical side, obviously the maturity aspect from a mental side, and then from golf, it's obviously with the ground force reaction, but also, everything that comes from a social perspective from girls, and everything and how different it is from boys. So a really good, interesting challenge.
Yeah.
But also with a lot of the international students that we have, it's also giving them that social aspect that, you know, they're 5,000 miles away from a parent.
Sure.
We have to be a parental figure. We have to be, you know, be able to guide them as best we can.
Yeah.
In the absence of a father or a mother figure that's here and present. So it's, like I say, it's a great challenge. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And tying everything, all the differences together with the maturity physically and mentally that are different than boys. Boys obviously become stronger, but become stronger at a later time. They reach their peak strength a little bit later than girls.
Yeah.
So just trying to train them in that way and train them with the understanding and the education of that, and knowing that as their bodies grow, you know, extremities grow first, so limbs and legs, hands and feet kind of grow first, and then the torso comes in a little later. So knowing what differences that makes to a person's golf swing is also really important. So with the girls' maturity, we've got the girls that we have at the moment are really mature. They're really good. Some really good players. We've got June Jang, who is number 3 in the US.
Yeah.
Top South Korean player, national team player. So developing her and allowing her to grow physically, mentally, and technically, is a lot of fun, but obviously a great challenge as well. You know, for a team as well. It's, you know, pushing people outside their comfort zones. Because that's where people grow the most. Yeah.
What is there any advice that you can give to parents of any of the young ladies that might be listening or that aren't listening, but they just have young ladies that are up and coming in the game?
Yeah, I mean, from a parent perspective, the best thing, obviously, it's love, support, and care. You know, you look at everything that you can do as a parent, giving them the opportunities. Making the sacrifices which all parents will happily make for their children, I think is one of the most consistent factors that has shown in elite players. Yeah. A lot of elite players, and when I say a lot, I mean there was research done on the European tour. There was about 130 players, and they found that the common factors within those players were the support of their families. Their families play a huge role in allowing them to reach the pinnacle of their dreams, playing or LPGA, PGA. Yeah. And it's the positive support, it's the constructive support, it's the, you know, if they didn't have a bad round, being there and putting an arm around them and saying, okay, what do we learn from it? How do we grow from it? Obviously, you know, the backgrounds that we've had is, you know, I've seen some parents that have chastised their children when they've been playing, and it doesn't help. Parent, as a parent of a golfer, positive support, positive encouragement. When things don't go well, that's okay. What can you learn from it? How can you forward from there? You know, to say, oh, your putting was terrible, your wedges were terrible. You know, give them support, give them guidance. That's what they're young people. They're young with only 12, 13, 14 years of existence and experience on this planet. So they need to build that awareness and they need to build that experience quickly. And it comes through the experiences that we have as adults.
Hey, this thing's going to cut us off in about 20 seconds. Okay. I didn't even realize it did this. An hour flew by. Yeah, we've been on an hour. So it says 10 seconds. But I really appreciate you doing this. I think it was a really good talk. And thanks.
Let's do it again before it cuts off.
Hey.
I could go all day.
I know.
All day.
I know. Some of the conversations I've had on here are just great. I mean, there's, we could do another hour probably, I'm sure.
We could, like I said,
there's so much to talk about.
There is, and there's, you know, you can go into as much detail of it as you want as well. Yeah. But I think just getting continuing to get the information out there is really important.
Yeah.
And getting good information. I'm not talking obviously the technology or anything like that, but just get the information to parents, get information to the supporting network that players have, I think is crucial. And then the communication that everybody has with themselves within that framework. So within the coaches, the parents, the grandparents, the teachers, the strength and conditioning, the mental, the player themselves. And I think that will just benefit everybody. Yeah, really well. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, we'll just continue to talk and continue to, like I say, we can do this again. I'm more than happy to get some of my guys on as well. Okay. So that people just learn and people understand how to develop correctly. Too many good players sometimes fall by the wayside because of the lack of knowledge.
And that's honestly that's the reason I started this whole project was, after recruiting young players for a few years and then just an understanding of a lot of families and parents and players just don't know what they don't know. I just wanted to create something that, we could have people on who know what they're talking about, that can just provide information and be a resource and just help guide these young players and their families as they're trying to navigate junior golf. So
I mean, John, I think that's hugely admirable. Excuse me, because I think the world that we live in now is there is a lot of information readily available, and the more quality information that can get put out there and pertaining to all different areas of development. Not just swing technique, not just technical, not just how do I hit the chip shot, how do I hit the lower ball flight, higher ball flight, whatever it may be, but actual true development that supports everything that goes on within a golf swing, that precurses a golf swing almost. I think that's really good, and you doing this is, like I say, is hugely admirable. And
thanks.
I think that hopefully it will grow as quickly as possible. And the more people that we reach and contact, the better everybody will be informed.
Yeah, I agree. It's actually surprised me. I mean, the breadth of the reach has been strong. I mean, I think right now it's been listened to in, I think, 29 countries, and within the U.S., 46 states or something like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I just, and we're 42 episodes in, so, not very far along, really. So I just feel like it's got an opportunity to really kind of deepen within those markets that it has reached so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the continuation of doing everything, and the more you keep pushing it, the more people will get to hear about it and tune in and listen to just the conversations that we have. And it's almost like pub talk in England, talk, but it's really informative pub talk. Because we can go in every different direction and have great insight and conversation and dialogue. And if there's multiple little bits of golden nuggets that's passed on or said, then maybe they resonate with people differently at different times.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's great about.
Well, it's interesting because I've had, like I said, this is, I think, the 42nd episode. I've talked about a lot of the same stuff because there's a lot of really fundamental aspects to the game, technically and just holistically, mentally, physically, all those types of things. The good players, the successful teachers, the successful coaches, all believe in similar things, but just have different ways of communicating it. And like you said, it just hits people in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. There's more in England. You say there's more than one way to kind of skin a cat, right?
Yeah. We say that in the U.S. too.
No, you do. Okay, good. so there's so many ways of playing this game. There's so many ways of getting the ball around a golf course. I think with the involvement of technology, the involvement of knowledge, science, research, everything that's coming along, it just gives greater understanding and lots of information, but for people that are passing that information on,
Yeah.
I think it needs to be just simplified from their perspective. So
Sure.
it's not say how much you know, it's passing the information on that is correct. So that you don't say everything that you know, you say what the player needs to know.
Yeah.
So, with TrackMan, you don't look at all the 30, 40 plus data parameters.
Right.
You pick out the one or two that are kind of
applicable
to that one player.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, there's many ways to do it.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Doing everything with sincerity and genuineness, I think, is the driving force behind any development of a player.
Yeah. There's a lot of good people in the game and people that want to share information and, help people grow and introduce more people to the game and grow it. And so,
yeah,
we'll just keep doing that.
Absolutely, bud. Like I said, we can do another one of these as well. Because, like I said, there's so much information. Just say there's so much to go through. We can talk more ground force reaction. We can just talk very loosely, like we've talked tonight as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think, people that join, or when you put this out on different streams or different locations, and whoever picks it up, if they just pick up something, just a little thing, then it's worth an hour and 10 minutes of our time.
Yeah.
And I'm more than happy to spend many more hours continuing to talk and continuing to discuss these types of things.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so important, and I think it's one aspect of growing the game.
Yep.
Because you keep more people in. If you allow people to have more fun and develop better, then more people will stay in the game. Burnout and people just getting fed up because they're being bashed from pillar to pillar.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons why people quit the game. With back injuries, but they just burn out. They just have enough. So, best way to keep people in the game is to retain them in the game. Yeah. Not to lose them.
For sure. Well, good.
Okay.
Well, since we jumped back on, I wasn't going to do this, but since we jumped back on, normally the way that I wrap up is I ask the guest to kind of hold the mic for a second and throw a question or two at me if there's anything that through our conversation sparked anything for you that I can answer. And I don't know what that is. It's up to you. It can be something about me or something about this project or just junior golf in general. That's kind of how I wrap up.
All right. So within the previous history of everything that you've done in your life, was there one or were there multiple incidents that drove you to do what you're doing right now?
In golf?
In golf. So or outside of golf. So what kick-started the idea of doing the podcast? What gave you that what gave you that initial spark that made you think, right, I really want to put something together and I really want to try and connect with as many people as possible?
I sort of alluded to it earlier, but really it was when I haven't stepped away from the junior game, obviously, because I'm still attached and I'm trying to provide value for the community of junior golf. But when my, I guess, primary job responsibilities shifted from junior golf to now I'm trying to grow a professional tournament on the Korn Ferry Tour, I didn't want to leave junior golf behind because I just wanted to stay tied to it. And so I just saw it as an opportunity based on the experience that I had with working with so many families that I just knew there was a lot of information that I talked to those families about that they weren't going to be able to get unless they had conversations with people in similar positions as I was in when I was recruiting young players. Okay. So I just felt like it was an opportunity for me to take the experience that I had in the network that I had developed and just pull everybody together to create a resource that can answer questions and provide information for families and for kids that are looking for that.
Okay. That's cool. That's really good. What do you do at the moment with the Korn Ferry?
So now I work for a golf management company, Global Golf Management.
Yeah.
and I'm the sales manager for the Lecom Suncoast Classic, which is a tournament in the Lakewood Ranch, Sarasota, Florida area.
Okay.
Yeah. So just working on, community development, building partnerships and sponsors to get behind the event, just to continue to, create a good event for the community. So,
Yeah. And how's that going?
Good. I volunteered. I was a hospitality chair on the volunteer committee the first year of the tournament, which was last year. This was the second year. The tournament was in February.
Yeah.
And so we got it off right before, Corona really took off. So we were fortunate there, but yeah, it was great. I mean, Korn Ferry Tour wise, we had about 20,000 spectators that came out in year two, which is last year we had about 17,500. So that was top 10 on the Korn Ferry Tour. So I think we're inching a little bit closer, maybe to top 5. I don't know where statistics will, well, obviously it's going to be skewed this year because there's some events that don't have spectators at all. So that'll be interesting to see how they kind of stack rank that.
Yeah, that makes your job a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
When there's no spectators, because I think they're going to be getting ready for the I think it's the RBC coming up shortly, and that's been rescheduled, and there's nobody. Like normally Hilton Head is buzzing, the island is packed.
Yeah.
Logistically, there is so much to organize.
Yeah.
But this year, absolutely nothing. It's just like a men's Saturday competition at your local golf course, really.
Yeah. So, fortunately for us, we got it off this year.
Yeah.
It won't take place until next February. So have no idea how the rest of this year is going to play out and, what events and tournaments are going to look like going forward. But we're definitely starting to plan and, being conscious of what the environment might be like at that time. Trying to create some opportunities for companies to get involved, to entertain clients, or, to bring employees out and stuff like that, just being conscious of social distancing and, those types of things so that we can make sure that we're still able to provide a really good product for those companies that are involved and putting, some of their hard-earned dollars to work from a marketing or branding perspective. So,
yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
That is a tough challenge, but good on you for doing that. That's awesome. And like
Thanks.
I say, it's great that you're doing this as well.
Thanks.
And let's do more in the future.
Okay.
And then again, continue getting the good message out to everybody, as many people as possible.
For sure.
So
sounds like a plan. I'll hopefully I get up to Hilton Head sooner rather than later. I'll definitely look you up when I get up there.
Yeah, drop me a message.
I will.
I know we tried to hook up last time that you were up here, and I think I was doing something. Life was crazy at the time.
No worries.
But yeah, just let me know, and then we'll hook up for sure.
Okay. Well, all the best to you and your family, and new venture with G2.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Have a good day.
All right. Take care.
Bye.